Welcome to Woodshop 101, where everything is made up and the points don't matter. Now meet the yin and yang of woodworking and the lady that keeps them in line, Jeremy, Drew, and Sam.
Welcome to episode 60. Tonight, we're going to talk about risks and how we evaluate it. We're joined tonight by our guest host, Todd Clippinger of the American Craftsman Workshop. What's going on, Todd?
Oh, just excited to be here with you guys. Seems like it's been forever since we got together.
I know, like a whole 5 minutes.
Yeah. I know. This conversations, I don't know. So, all right. So, it's been a while since we've done one of these, but this is going to be our fast episode. And so we'll just jump right into it. So Todd kind of put me on this idea, and it really kind of jumped on me. We want to talk about kind of how we assess risk and determine if that risk is worth taking. I teach risk taking just about every week. In fact, I taught it today for a couple hours. And so it's something that I'm very, passionate about, or want to educate people about, because a lot of people don't really determine or think that they take risky decisions. And in reality, everybody takes risk or determines risk versus gain every single day. It could be something, as small as I want to go eat Mexican food for dinner.
Risk.
You know what? It might give me heartburn. So let me go take Tums. Well, you just determined risk versus gain, right? So, that risk was going to eat, or that gain was going to eat Mexican food, and that risk was getting that heartburn. Yes, we're kind of dumbing it down there for a second, but you may not need to think back and be like, okay, what's the risk? What's the gain? Let's determine this. Your body is naturally wired to determine risk versus gain, right? Your subconscious mind is always working, and it's always telling you, okay, I shouldn't do that because X, Y, and Z can happen. Well, that's risk versus gain, or that's assessing risk. So how do you guys assess risk on the larger scale of things? Maybe taking on a new job, or purchasing a new tool, or leaving your job like Todd did, and just jumping right into it. How do you really weigh your risk versus gain?
I guess it all depends on how much trouble I want to be in with my wife.
Well,
that does factor in.
That's a
not
good one.
A joke.
That's a good one.
Because you do have to consider your significant other, right?
So does that?
They have to be on, because they have to be on board.
So does that fall in the risk or the gain category?
Both.
Depends on how they feel.
True.
It's both.
True.
Do I want to take the risk on having to sleep out in the doghouse to gain her affection later? I don't know. It's really difficult. I mean, like you said, your subconscious is always in the background weighing the cost and the benefit. It's just like your conscience is in the background going, no, shouldn't do that. And whether or not you choose to do it is basically when your adrenaline starts going. And like I said, it could be something as simple as just deciding to buy a different pair of socks, versus maybe buying a new house. But there's all kinds of factors to take in, and a lot of it, in my respect, tends to revolve around my family. I mean, how is it going to affect them? Because I can tell exactly how it's going to affect me, but quitting my job to pursue something full time, dude, that's a scary thought. It's a huge leap of faith, and if you don't have the drive and determination to back up that leap of faith, you're not going to make it. So those are the things that you have to weigh before you take that risk. And I don't know, Todd. I mean, what in the world were you thinking when you decided to quit? And were you like super scared whenever you did it?
No, I wasn't scared at all. But, to make sure that we maintain a frame of context, I had met my wife at the time, Rita. We had been seeing each other. She had kids. I had my house. She had her house. We weren't married. We were very serious, and we're definitely headed down that path of, towards being together permanently. But I officially was not a husband, of course, and didn't have a family. And I kind of ended up at the end of my rope at Costco. I was bumping my head on the ceiling. I felt like I wasn't going anywhere anymore. And where I felt really trapped was the fact that I recognized once I got out of the Army, I worked at Costco and I did nothing but play. And I did all kinds of stuff, just fun stuff, high energy, high adrenaline activities constantly. And then I realized after 8 years, I had no skills after working. So when I wanted to, now I'm looking at having a family, and I realized I have a good job at Costco and I was getting paid very well at that time. But I also felt trapped because I realized I had no skills. If I lost my job at Costco, I had nothing to fall back on. And I qualified to stock the shelves at the grocery store or work at the bakery at the grocery store for very little money. So I literally just decided to up and quit. And that's exactly what I did. And I literally bought a couple books, and the listeners may have heard this in previous episodes or on MakerCast. I literally quit my job. I bought a couple home DIY repair books, and I bought an old pickup truck and a few tools from Kmart and Sears and started my own handyman business. And I was just driven. I'll tell you what, starvation is a motivator. No joke. And everybody talks about pursuing their passion these days. It wasn't about passion. It was about, I had nothing to fall back on. And my passion became learning. Literally, when I quit Costco, it was like an absolute free fall without a parachute. And that motivated me to get my butt moving. And very quickly, I started to see a return on my effort, which was exactly what I wanted to see. Because as you know, if you work at your job, you are putting out effort for somebody else, and you only see your return is fixed, basically, unless maybe you're on commission or something. But so the neat thing was, when I went out on my own, I started seeing a direct result for the energy and input that I put into my own business. I started getting a return, and it was directly proportional to my effort. So that was sort of a self-feeding loop. There was a feedback loop that kept me energized and motivated, and it was very exciting. So, but and it was an absolute free fall, because I literally stepped out and quit. I was just like sick of it. I couldn't work another day at Costco, and I just absolutely freaking quit. And I just had faith that I would figure it out. But I think that you can quit your job and do it more smartly than I did, because there was nothing smart about what I did. I literally just freaking quit. So,
but it worked out.
It did work out. Yes, it did.
So do you
go ahead.
have any specific ways on how, like, so you make that risky decision, you quit that job, obviously we identified that you weren't making sound judgment at the time. You were just reacting to a situation, which
I was.
I mean, obviously worked out for you. But, in today's time frame, that can't really happen in a lot of places. We're in this national debt crisis. Everybody has some debt somewhere, or the rising prices of fuel and everything else. It's hard for you to just be like, I quit. I'm going to go figure it out, because everything's just way more expensive now. Do you have any way of like something specific? Maybe you sit down and you create like a pro con list, or you create some kind of chart. Do you have any one method that helps you determine the risk versus gain and where you should fall? Well,
yeah, I guess, I do kind of think through things logically, and because of the field that I'm in, and I guess to be specific, to make sure your listeners understand, I'm a remodeling contractor. I'm a registered remodeling contractor, but I make a lot of my living from the shop and building custom projects for clients. And a lot of that has come through the years of me building a reputation as a remodeling contractor. So back when I quit my job at Costco, I wasn't thinking about fine woodworking. I didn't even know it existed. All I knew was that I was going to start working on houses. That's really as much as I defined it. But there were some things that actually worked out in my favor that helped me leave Costco. Costco is one of those jobs that they say they're golden handcuffs because you get paid very well. I was a single guy back in 97 working 36, 38 hours a week, making like $36,000 a year. Now, might not sound like big money, but it's nothing to sneeze at, especially, almost 20 years ago. And the fact that, I was able to pay for it. I was buying a house and I had a decent vehicle and things like that. But what I did was those high energy activities that I'm talking about, one of them was I was a free solo rock climber. So being a free solo rock climber means that I was climbing mountains and then climbing cliffs and things with like no protection, because typically my days off didn't correspond with anybody else's. So I just had to do it myself if I wanted to do it. And a lot of that came from just me being an independent person. But anyways, in my quest for adrenaline. So one of the things that I did, I recognized that was an extremely high risk activity and people fell, and I knew people that had fallen and gotten injured. And I actually, instead of buying a boat and a wave runner and, snowmobiles and things like that, and a sports car and a nice truck, I actually got ahead of my house payments because I was just trying to protect myself if I got hurt. So by the time that I left Costco after 8 years, I was actually ahead on my house payment like a year and a half. So as an effort to protect myself, if I got injured with my high risk activities, I actually had gotten ahead of my house payments, and I wasn't I wasn't spread out with a whole bunch of different payments. And when I left Costco, because I had vacation pay and some sick pay saved up, I was able to take that and use it as seed money too. So I did have some things in my favor. Now, what I can say is this: if you decide you want to go out, let's say, the big movement now, of course, is, you want to be, make videos on YouTube or whatever and be a content producer, or maybe you want to be a woodworker or whatever it is, because these are largely the audiences we're talking to. Number one, your spouse really does need to be on board. You need to sit down and talk to them about it. What's the potential? Can it happen? Yes, no. Can you fail? Yes, no. Obviously, yes. How long can you take the beating? If you leave your job, how long can you go without that income? And how long do you think it will take to get things floating? Now, that means you need to start doing some financial planning. If you're over your head with, the boat and the extra motorcycle and the wave runners and all that stuff, you might take a look at selling some of that stuff off, because you need to. Rita and I have my wife had her own cafe. I have my own business, and we don't have any of that stuff. But if we want to go with somebody else, we can always enjoy that with somebody else. We have family and friends that has all that stuff, and we get invited out sometimes, and we pitch in for gas and stuff. So it's not like we can't enjoy it anymore. And so, what we've done is, being business owners, we've kept very low overhead for our lifestyles. That gives us freedom. And we've also got ahead on our house payments, and we're up on paying our house off faster, because we understand that getting us out from underneath that house payment is going to free us up in about a year and a half. So we've focused on that. It takes, and the bottom line, guys, is everything's going to take discipline. So you need to start planning ahead. You need to take a look at your financial situation. How long can you take the loss of income? Can you get things going fast enough? What can you do to reorganize your payments or get rid of them? You got to make the sacrifice, because I'm sure you're going to take a cut and pay. Can you reorganize your house payment, get a loan to get things going? You can make a business plan. Also, I think people overlook the Small Business Administration and what they have to offer for getting strong business advice. A lot of people are going to other people on YouTube or in the woodworking community, and they're overlooking the fact that the Small Business Administration has some really sound business advice. And also, I worked with a SCORE mentor that I hooked up with through the Small Business Administration. And the SCORE mentors are really great. They're retired executives that help other small businesses out, or people that want to go into business, and they will poke holes in everything that you want to do. And that's what you need. You need to put your idea out there, talk to these guys, and they're going to have a friendly conversation with you, and they're also going to poke holes in all your ideas. They're going to put your ideas to the fire to see how it holds up, to see if it's going to work for you, and they'll encourage you along and help you work through some of the challenges. So, those are some things that I highly recommend. If you're going to leave, one of the things too, if you're going to leave your work, what you need to do is stop talking about it, stop talking about your dreams and leaving work, because the people around you that are going to feel like they're stuck at their job and you're chasing your dream, they're going to be jealous. And while you're headed out the door, somebody's going to stick their leg out and trip you as you try to leave. And your boss, they might just fire you on their terms instead of you getting to leave on your own terms. Now, so you want to be careful about the information that you're dispensing at work for those reasons. Also, here's another thing. This is my personal observation. When you have a conflict with somebody at work and you go home and you vent that steam to your wife or your husband, it basically helps. It's a coping mechanism, helps keep you from acting out physically. So when you get excited, you get this idea, I'm going to be a woodworker, I'm going to go pro, and you start spouting it off, you're releasing the steam. And instead of capturing it like a steam engine and turning it into motion and getting work done, basically you're releasing the steam, you're releasing the energy, and then you do less work. The more you talk about it, basically the less you're going to get done. Keep all that bottled up inside and make sure you put it into action instead. So I think those are some things that are really important, and some, just basic things that you can do to start setting yourself up so you can leave successfully. It is a risk. And I want to tell you guys, I've had some bumpy years, especially through the recession. And this year has been a really bumpy year. We hit summer and the wheels really fell off the freaking wagon. Here's some reality for you guys. Major medical bill we had to pay. Dumped a bunch of money in the car. After fixing it, car dies, had to buy another car. Wasn't ready for that, because at the same time, the building sold that my wife's cafe was in, so now my wife had to close the cafe. We got loss of income. Guess what? These things happen. And you know what, too? We got skills, though. We understand that we'll survive. It is a risk, but my wife sought after for her talent for cooking and catering, and she already has offers all over the place, and she's working. I just had to pick up more work. I just had to pick up the pace and take on a bigger workload to make sure that we could cover all those ends. So the thing is, it's not I don't want anybody to feel sorry for me, but what I want you to understand is we were able to face that with confidence because we both have skills. We know how to stand on our own 2 feet, and we've made lots of contacts, and we're well respected in our community. This has, been years of developing business relationships within our community. So all those things are very important.
Dang.
That's my spiel.
On that note, Jeremy, let's wrap it up.
So, all right. Well, let's get a little input from you, Drew. When you make these big decisions, or you decide to maybe start airing different segments that it's like the Join It series or even the little boomers. They're all risky decisions because you don't know how your audience is going to react. You don't know how your sponsors are going to react to it. Is there any one way that you kind of help figure yourself out and whether you should continue on that adventure or not?
If there's one thing I've learned in YouTube is that nothing is a safe bet. I have tried several different things just to see where my audience is going to respond better to. And I have found that my audience is pretty diverse. I might try to do like the Join It series, and I noticed that my view counts went to a tighter niche of people, and they went down, of course. And in YouTube, views are what pay, and I took that risk of introducing it into my audience, and the risk is that I took a risk on losing money, and trying to gain a different audience, but it just wasn't working out. So I had to back off a little bit. So I'm trying to lean in a more DIY friendly atmosphere, because I found a lot of viewers tend to do a lot more DIY and like reclaimed wood projects and pallet wood projects, and but I also thought about family, because people want to try to involve their family as much as possible in projects that they do, whether it's simple or complex. They want to try and teach what they know to their children or even their spouse. And I sat down with my wife just to kind of discuss what her thought process was on how to improve my channel, because it's not just Rockin' H Woodshop. It's not just me. I mean, like I said, it's my whole family. And I'm trying to bring them into it more, just so I can increase my audience, increase my view counts, and hopefully increase my income.
I think I want you to know, I think it's extremely important, and people understand, and how good it is you're including your wife. You have an open conversation with her. She knows where you stand and what your goals are, and she's going to help back you, because you need that. You can't just step out and do it on your own.
No, this is something that I never could have done by myself, and without my wife's support and understanding in basically changing our lifestyle in order to incorporate my time and abilities in order to make this channel what it is now, because I've been doing it for 3 years. I couldn't have done it without her. And now my daughter wants to get in on the action too. So I'm starting to include her in some of the decisions, like what kind of projects that she wants to make. And then I have to weigh the options on whether or not I think that project will do well on the channel. So I tend to do a paper to pen thing, and I will lay out a pro and con on what I've been analyzing with my audience, and if it's going to help make me a little more income, or am I going to lose income? Because I'm trying to build this to a point where I can quit. But unlike Todd, I don't have that much financial, wouldn't say assistance, but the ability to get ahead on my bills like Todd did. Something always seems to get in the way, so my prep work and desire to get ahead has just been put off, and it seems like debt takes the place of a debt I just paid off. So it's something that I have to work at to get to basically substitute what it is that I'm making right now at my normal job, and I just can't take that leap until it's completely, if not close to being completely substituted. So it is a lot of consideration with not just me, but also from the family, and I just can't take those chances and risks without consulting them and then putting it into action.
Yeah, now and think about the things that I was saying just happened to us this summer, and like I said, that wasn't to I don't want anybody to feel sorry for us. That was to illustrate the point. Think about right now, if you quit and you started making videos for Rocket or whatever, or straight up for YouTube with some sponsorship, what if all those things happened to you? Where would you be? Would you be able to survive? And so that's where I want people to understand the reality is there, the risk is there, and you could crash and burn. One of the things too, though, I think sometimes the fear itself is almost worse than anything. Rita and I know we're well respected in the community, and we can go get jobs anywhere. I mean, we'll make more money. Even when you guys look at yourselves and think what happened during the recession, a lot of people found themselves in a really bad situation without intending to. And they found that they could survive. They got more creative. They found themselves to be resilient. And if you were especially one of those people, think about that. Hey, you survived that. You can make the change and you will figure it out and you will survive.
Yeah, absolutely. So teaching risk assessment and how to get people to make that risk versus gain decision. We teach in the Coast Guard a very structured method. We have a risk assessment model that's got different categories, and it's you assign a numerical value to all these different categories, and it helps you. It puts you. It breaks it down and kind of puts you in an area, and you kind of see there. And we symbolize it like a stoplight. There's a green section, a yellow section, or an amber section, and a red section. And depending on where you fall with this numerical value depends on, where your risk is. If you fall in the green area, the risk may be there, but you're well planned, you're ready to go. Proceed with whatever that is. If you're in the amber section, take caution. We're not saying don't proceed, but proceed with caution, kind of thinking back on those areas that are a little riskier than others. And if you fall in that red section, it's recommended to stop, kind of reevaluate until you can fall back into, an amber section or a green section. And so it's a very rigid type program that helps people that are kind of stuck and how to see the end goal, or to think, to help you think through the entire process. And teaching that and having that drilled in me over the last 12 years has kind of made me have more of a rigid type structured program. And I don't use it for everything, but I use it for a lot of things, at least, the bigger decisions I've developed. And I kind of took what the Coast Guard modeled and made it into myself. And so I've made myself, like a check sheet that I go through, and it has different areas, the cost, what's it going to cost? Is it, whether it's buying a new tool or losing a job, what's the future financial impact? How does it impact your family? These are all different areas that I look at and I evaluate, and I say, okay, what's the risk in each category? What's the risk in each one of these areas? So it breaks it down and it helps me look at, okay, well, that's where the risk, this decision, that's where that risk is, that's what it's going to affect, that part of my life. After deciding that we were going to talk about this on the podcast, I wrote an article up to kind of put more thought and more direction and I'm actually going to put out a PDF version of this form that I use. And I really encourage you guys. So by the time you're listening to this, I'll have already released the article, and I really encourage all of you listeners to go to the show notes for today's episode and look for that link and go to it and see if it's something that can work out for you. Like I said, you don't have to use it for everything. But if you're kind of stuck, you're trying to make a big decision, leave that job or buy a new table saw or maybe take on a commission that you haven't done before or something, see if that form works for you. And it's very it's very relative because it's how you feel. It's the risk that you feel. But it's also very subjective because it's outlined. It says, here's your 6 elements, your 6 categories, weigh the risk in these areas. Don't play the what if game. So it gets subject into that. You can't what if it. You can't be like, well, what if that happened? Or what if this happened? Because if you lived life by the what if game, you're never going to make a risky decision in your life. So without getting way into it, I just highly encourage you to go back to my website, read that article, look at that PDF form, and see if it works out for you. By all means, if you need some more guidance on it, or you have questions, reach out to me. I find that it works for me, and it may not work for you, but it's just something that I've learned over the years, and teaching it. It was easy for me to adopt and modify what I teach into something that I can use in my everyday life. So,
I'm actually pretty. Yes. I was really excited actually to hear your input because of what you teach, and and I'm a veteran, so I like the way the military lays some things out. Some of the stuff is a little bit bureaucratic, but then there are also some things they do lay it out very simply, and the principles apply to what you're teaching, for the military, but also to personal life as well. So even though the situation is different, the principles remain the same in weighing all those things out. Yeah. And I like the way the military always breaks that stuff down.
Yeah, absolutely. For example, so at work, what we look at, we weigh risk in 6 categories: supervision, and then so that's kind of weighing who's in charge, their experience. Then we look at crew selection, so who's part of your team. We look at fatigue, are people tired? We look at environment. We look at our planning phases, and then we weigh risk in the complexity of whatever evolution we're doing. And to break it down to super quick, each one of those categories gets a number 1 through 10. 1 low risk, 10 high risk. Once you go through those 6 elements, you add up those numbers, and you get and you get your total number. That total number then falls in green, amber, or red. Green being 6 through 23, and then 24 through 44 would be amber. 44 through 60, you would fall in your red section. And like I said, so depending on which one of those sections you fall into, kind of depends on how much risk you're taking and how you should proceed. So I pretty much modeled that, but I came up with 6 independent categories for kind of everyday life. It's not really tailored for woodworking or making or whatever it is. It's more tailored to everyday life, right? Some of those categories, like I said, were, what's the future impact of your family? How's it going to affect your family? What's the monetary value, right? Are you going to be paying much out of pocket, and are you going to be getting anything in return? So those things that it could help you decide, do I want to go buy, do I want to buy a new lawnmower? I'm tired of pushing. I want a riding lawnmower. Or, what, we want to take a family vacation this summer. I've kind of outlined that form for it to help you make those type of decisions. So like I said, to take a look at it. If it works for you, it works for you. If you're not very structured, it probably won't work for you. But at least give it a shot. Go into it with an open mind, because it may just make your life a little bit easier. So,
very cool.
All right. Well, Drew, if you want to give us the contact info, we will get out of here. Stop bugging them for the night.
You mean I can go to sleep?
No, you can't. You got comments to respond to.
That's true, I do. And I really need to get to them. Well, I'm going to make this as quick as I possibly can, since this is our fast episode, and I think we've gone a little over. So if you guys need to get in contact with us, each of us have our own contact section pages on our very own websites. You can go to American Craftsman Workshop.com, or you can go to CountrysideWorkshop.com or RHWoodshop.com. Fill out the contact sections, and it will send us an email individually, or you can get in contact with all 3 of us if you are wanting to reach Todd as well. And it is woodshop101podcast@gmail.com. You can also call our voicemail, which is 409-234-3959. Ask us anything that you like, or give us any constructive feedback, and you'll be featured on the show. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, well, thank you, Todd, for coming on. It's fun having you. We'll have to have you again.
Well, thanks. Appreciate it. Had a lot of fun. I think it was a great topic because a lot of people don't think about the risk and how they're going to deal with it. So I think it's a great topic.
Yeah.
Most definitely. All right. Well, guys, thank you very much. And thank you very much, Todd, for being on the show. It was a blast. And I guess that's it. So from Jeremy, Todd, and myself, we want to wish you guys well. Please be safe in your shops. We'll talk to you guys on the next podcast. So from all three, 1, 2, 3.
Boom.
Boom. Boom. It's never going to work.
Nope.